So I'm a huge fan of the fantasy genre. I've pretty much read all the classics. I've read Tolkien, Martin, Robert E. Howard, C.S. Lewis, you name it. And my love for fantasy all started with Tolkien. I'm writing my own fantasy novel at the moment, and I'll probably dedicate it to him. Just a little dedication on the very first page. Because really, he inspired me so much, and his essay on fairy stories that really gets to the heart of the purpose of fantasy, what it even means to anyone who enjoys it or reads it. And I got into Tolkien around the time the first Hobbit movie came out. That was 2011. I was 12 years old. And I had seen the trailer for the first Hobbit movie. I forgot what movie I was watching, but I remember the Hobbit trailer, and it got me hooked. I went and bought a copy of The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings and read them one after the other, and then my love for fantasy fiction started from there. And even before that, as a younger kid, I was always interested in anything magical or sci-fi or you name it. And around that time, that was also when Game of Thrones came out. And I had seen advertisers for that. I probably shouldn't have watched it or read the books at that age, but I did. And I find that funny because my introduction to fantasy really was the granddaddy of modern fantasy, and then I was immediately up to speed with where fantasy was at in our time with Game of Thrones. And, I could tell automatically it was, turning traditional fantasy tropes on their head and subversion. And that really became the trendsetter since then. And as much as I love both Tolkien and Martin, I never want to. I don't like to compare the two. I don't think one's necessarily better than the other. It's their own flavor, each one. But I think a return to traditionalism would be really cool to see. I would like to see more fantasy harkening back to the old school. And that's what I want to set out to do with my book, But I think from what I can tell from the general public, it seems like a lot of people are kind of sick of, like the subversion of expectations, as Ryan Johnson put it. So I guess what I'm saying is that we need more J.R.R. Tolkiens. Anybody out there that loves fantasy and they got a book and a song in their heart, let's write another Lord of the Rings. Let's write something that really inspires people and and show that good can triumph over evil, because I think that's a more important message now than ever, because our time has kind of become a reflection of, our time kind of feels more like Game of Thrones, like the lines between good and evil are kind of in a gray area, and I feel like a lot of people are a little lost, and And I think we all, as a whole, need a little bit more direction, and I think a lot of that could start with, some kind of like artistic and literary movement that's dedicated to that. Now, I'm not one to preach and propagandize with my art, but I would like to push in that kind of direction. I think it's needed. So, anybody out there that wants to be the next J.R. Tolkien, go ahead and do it, man. Let me know about it. I'll pick up your book. I'll read it. I'll write my book. I'll get rich and famous. I'll promote your book, and we'll bring a little bit more good into this world. Well, I guess that's all I have to say.